Hey, I'm Pat Iyer, and I have the pleasure of bringing to you Jane Garee. We're going to focus this program for you as a legal nurse consultant if you are interested in getting more cases. Jane has a long experience working in the sales arena. She helps business owners who want to create selling strategies and take them to the next level mastery of conversions. Her goal is to help people have more fun, make more money, and realize their biggest dreams, all the while having fun. Jane has extensive experience helping people close more sales, develop sales programs that will be successful for them. She has worked with several multi-million dollar companies and worked with, as an area sales manager, two different billion-dollar companies. She was recruited to the South Florida area for one of Inc.'s 500 fastest growing companies. And Jane is somebody I've met through one of my coaching programs. You may hear South Florida, but Jane does not lock herself into any one place for any long periods. So she is a person who likes to travel the world and live in different places. Jane, welcome to this live stream.
Thank you so much, Pat. I'm really excited to be here.
And what we're going to focus on in this session is if you ever feel unsure about what to say to an attorney who calls you about a new case, we're going to talk about that piece. We'll talk about what you can say to capture the attorney's attention and acknowledge their hesitations. And you may hear some hesitations in your conversation with the attorney. And you might have questions about what motivates an attorney to pick you. If you have attended one of my virtual conferences, you may have met Jane, who was part of the support for the October 2022 conference that we did. And we've got another conference coming up. I wanted to make sure that I put that link at the bottom of the screen so that you have that to refer to at the end of our program. That'll be October 26, 27, and 28. And that is a virtual online LNC Success Conference. This is the place to come to for support, for networking, and a community. Jane, I wanted to start with the focus that many people have of marketing and sales. Marketing and sales, they're the same thing. They're put together in the same sentence so often. Can you tell us, is there a difference?
Oh, there is a huge difference between marketing and sales, or sales and marketing. The first thing to think about when it comes to marketing is that marketing is really the money mover. Marketing is a money mover. The other thing about marketing is that it helps your prospect or your ideal client identify that they actually have a problem. So they have to know that they have a problem. That's the job of marketing. So the reason why marketing is called the money mover is people aren't ready to buy yet. They're just getting acclimated into this idea of, I think I have this problem. The marketing is doing a very good job of explaining to me in language that I understand that something is not quite right. I'm in pain, I have problems, whatever the situation may be, but there's an identification that your prospect is going to be able to do through a self-diagnosis when your marketing is really good. So it's a money mover. Sales is the money maker. Sales is the solution to the problem. So once people have identified through marketing that they have a problem and they want to continue to go forward and find out what can I do to actually solve this problem, that's where the sales department kicks in. So the sales department is there to solve the problem, and the sales is actually the money maker. So money mover versus money maker. Help your prospective client identify that they have a problem versus help your client actually solve the problem.
That's a great differentiation. And for us as solo business owners, there is no marketing department. There is no sales department. That is us. So we switch back and forth, right, between those two pieces.
Yes. 100% of the time when I hear people say, I hate sales, it's because they really don't understand what sales is, what selling is, and how it is fundamentally different from marketing. And then just to make it even better and more confusing, they think pitching is some part of sales and marketing. So really, when people say, I hate sales, it makes me feel sleazy and cheap and pushy and whatever colorful words they use to describe that. What they're really saying is, I hate pitching. And I understand that pitching is a very specific thing that has to be done in very particular instances. But pitching is 100% not marketing. It is 100% not selling. So what people hate, and if you're feeling right now like, oh, I hate selling, I want to back up from this, what you probably hate is the pitching. So we've been taught over the years that a good salesperson is somebody kind of gets in your face, starts talking really quickly, really aggressive, and tells you why you have to have this thing, why you have to have it now, why'd you be crazy not to do it. And that is yucky. Nobody likes that, but that's not selling, and selling isn't marketing. Marketing is going to help your ideal clients identify that they have a problem and realize that they need a solution. And then sales just comes in and provides a solution. So if you hate sales, you can just take a deep breath. You actually don't hate sales. You just have to retrain your brain how to think of sales. What you hate is pitching. What you probably loathe is pitching to people who never asked you for any kind of information. That's where the sales stigma comes in, which is unfortunate because that's not what selling is at all.
Yes, it reminds me of when you connect with a person on LinkedIn and the first message that they send back to you is to tell you why you need their services.
Right.
And often you don't need their services.
You don't need their services. You don't need their services. I use the example a lot of times of trying to, if you had a bakery shop, if you ran a pastry shop, and you were out marketing to people, you were out pitching to people, let's call it, and they hate sweets. They will have nothing to do with sugar. And so here you are out trying to tell them why you've got the world's greatest pies and cookies and cakes, and they just don't eat sugar. They just don't eat sweets. They want nothing to do with it. Everybody's going to be aggravated. You're going to get really frustrated because you cannot figure out why these people don't want to try your amazing product. And the people that you're trying to push your product onto are feeling like, why don't you understand that I don't want what it is that you have to offer? So it's a convoluted and complicated tangle that sales and marketing actually, when they start overlapping, because there is some overlap, but they overlap, you throw pitching in on top of it, and then you're very frustrated and you're irritating the daylights out of everybody that you're coming up and pitching. So it's a big problem.
It is, Jane. And I have heard of people who don't like sugar, but I personally don't occupy that world.
Yeah. See, and you would be an ideal client if I owned a bakery shop. This is the whole essence. That is the magic key, as much as there is never really a magic key. But that is the magic key. When you're marketing effectively, you're actually helping your ideal clients realize they're an ideal client, resonate with what you're saying, and then recognize that you are the authority in that particular industry. So Pat, you would recognize that I own the world's best bakery shop. We're already simpatico. You like sugar, I like sugar. You want sugar, I have sugar to sell. So it's a much better way to get started. And that's why marketing is so important. When your marketing is on point and doing what it's supposed to be doing, your sales conversations, you still need skill, but your sales conversations become so much easier because you're not trying to offer something that somebody has no interest in and irritating them. Yeah. And I also like sugar. I'm trying to get off of it. Probably why I'm talking about a bakery shop. I'm off of sugar and I just want some.
So what happens in our world is typically we get phone calls as a result of our marketing. We might have met an attorney at a conference. The attorney might have responded to something that we posted on LinkedIn. It could be a referral from another client. The phone rings, and often cases come in with a phone call. And the legal nurse consultant is listening to that attorney and recognizes that the nurse, is qualified to review this case and wants to work on this case for this new prospect. Can you give us some strategies about what we should be thinking and doing during that initial call?
Yes, I would love to. So the first thing you should be thinking is, as excited as I am because I believe that I'm qualified to do this and I really want this case, you do want to take a step back and say, but I'm not quite sure. That one strategy alone will take down any stress that you might be feeling or any pressure that you might be experiencing to close the deal. Your prospective client can always feel that energy. So when you're like a yippy puppy, let's do this, we're ready to go, they're going to feel that energy. So just lean back and tell yourself, I'm really excited. I think I want this case. It sounds like I can solve it. This would be a really great piece of business to have, but I'm not quite sure. So that's the first mindset shift that I want you to make. Then as to what you're going to do is start asking a lot of questions, a lot of in-depth questions. You want to have a structure when you're in a sales conversation. This is why it's not a friendly chat. It's not you trying to pitch and tell the attorney how amazing you are and why you should get the job. And it's also not an interview, which can feel very detached and cold. And that also makes people uncomfortable, kind of as in, this just feels like a sales call. So what you want to do is, number one, have a structure to your conversation. Number two, really start asking and get very good at asking in-depth questions, because you want to be 100% sure of two things. Number one, does this person have a problem that you can solve? And are you the best person to solve that problem? And number two, this is really important, especially in your line of work. Is this somebody that you could see being a good client, good person to work with? I don't mean inherently good versus evil. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, do you have some chemistry there, human to human, so that when you see them on your phone, in your email, on your text, wherever it is that you communicate, you go, oh, excellent. How can I serve Pat today? What does Pat need right in the moment? She's so delightful. Instead of, oh, I just can't wait till this case is over, that Pat. You don't want to do that. It gets very uncomfortable. It ultimately can really detract you from the other clients who need you, who would be fun to work with, good to work with, we'll call it. Solid clients. You appreciate what they bring to the table, and they appreciate the skill and talent that you bring to the table. So number one, lean back. I'd love to do this, but I'm not sure. And number two, structure. And number three, make sure that you get really good at asking questions that will really, truly help you determine, do they have a problem I can solve? Am I the best person to solve this? And is this somebody that I would enjoy, and I know that can have a lot of connotation, but enjoy working with?
Those are great points, Jane. And when I interview people for podcasts or I'm talking to my coaching clients, I often remind nurses that we are nurses first. We are trained to listen. We are trained to communicate. And we're also trained so that if Jane Garee is laying in a hospital bed, God forbid, and is frightened and not feeling well, that we walk in the door and within 15 seconds, we have to establish rapport and let Jane know we know how to take care of her. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we're good at. Mm-hmm. We learn how to do that in our training. And if we think in those terms in a sales conversation, we're doing the same thing, listening, establishing rapport, making judgments, as you just said, Jane, of, is this a person I want to work with? Or is this person abrupt, abrasive, demanding? Little red flags that go up in that initial conversation. That's what I just heard you say, Jane. Watch for the red flags.
Watch for the red flags, right. And as nurses, you all do have very special skills that have already been polished and enhanced, and that will serve you so well, because a lot of business owners, they don't have any of those. And so they have to work to even get those kind of personality traits, if you will, which is hard if you don't naturally come by it. So you naturally come by it if you're in the nursing field. It's just who you are. You are trained to do it. That's that enhancement. It's been amplified. And the last thing that I'll say about this, Pat, because I was getting the visual of you all being by somebody's bedside, is when you come in, you take leadership of that situation immediately. And that's really important there for the patient. And it's also the same thing and important in a sales call. people want to know when they're exploring whether or not they want to work with you, that you understand, you've got it, you have a leadership position, you have authority in the matter, and you are going to have a conversation in such a way that they will be able to make a very powerful decision about whether or not they choose you. And that combination is extraordinarily powerful, because it lets this other person off the hook, where they don't feel like, I have to, she's coming at me, I don't really want to work with her, and how do I say no? She's too aggressive. So all of the skills that you have trained on, that you have learned, that you inherently are, and that have been amplified in the nursing profession, yes to those in a discovery call or sales call, exploratory call.
And we know that sometimes in that initial call, the attorney comes to the legal nurse consultant with a problem, which I'm going to label as the surface problem. But there may be another problem that is under that problem, and something that you call the pup, not in a dog, canine manner, but the problem under the problem. Tell us about that.
Yes, the problem underneath the problem. When I started doing sales training, which feels like at this time, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I've been doing it for so long, but it has been 30 years. And when I first started doing sales training, what I realized is that this notion of ask really good questions when you are in a discovery call nobody could really explain what that meant. And so when I got my own training, ask really good questions, I thought, okay, well, I'm kind of nosy by nature anyway, in a good way. Let me just keep asking questions. And it became pretty clear to me that the level of questions, they don't hit the depth that's actually necessary to move somebody forward. So let me give you an example. The problem, as your ideal client would see it, the attorney, is that he's got a whole stack of medical documents that have to be reviewed, and he doesn't have the time to do that. So now he's stressed out. He needs help. But the problem isn't just that he doesn't have time to review the medical records, which is what he's going to say. The bigger problem underneath that is the concern and the fear that because he won't have time to read the medical documents, and because he may not be able to interpret them, he's not going to be able to provide adequate counsel. And so what's the problem underneath that problem? He's going to disappoint the family. He is going to, that's not going to bode well for future referrals, which means the business might be at stake. So the surface level problems are always the things that are external. In my world, I teach my clients to think of it in terms of the situation. Your client will describe it as, my problem is I don't have enough time to read medical transcripts. I don't really know that I can interpret the medical transcripts the way that they need to be interpreted. I've got to do the lawyering. I've got a whole staff that I need to worry about. I'm not going to have the time or the energy to coordinate all of this. Those are all true. And yes, they are problems, but they're technically situations because it's all external. The problem underneath the problem is whatever that attorney is feeling. So the attorney is going to be feeling a great deal of stress, which then the problem underneath the problem with the stress is, I'm not going to provide adequate counsel. The problem underneath that is, I'm not going to be able to show up and do for my clients what I know needs to be done. And now we're back to, they're going to be disappointed. I'm not going to get any further cases. So it becomes very emotional very quickly. And what happens in a sales conversation is the business owner, the legal nurse, me, any of us who are in the role of the person trying to get the business and determine if they want the business, they don't go deep enough with the questions. We all are looking for a solution to one or more of 5 things: more time, more money, more love, more health, or more freedom, as we would define it. And until you understand what more time, more money, more love, more health, and more freedom, as your client would define it, until you really have an understanding of what all of that means to them and the emotional attachment they have to it, solving a problem for somebody and getting the client becomes a bit difficult. Anybody can say, and can, we're talking about different degrees of compatibility or competence. Anybody can solve a problem with, we can read your medical records, we can interpret your medical records, we can fill in the blank. But for somebody to come in and say, listen, Sally, attorney, I've got you on this. I know that you are really really wanting to get the best outcome possible for this family. I've seen the story, I've heard the story, you've shared the story with me. I know that you go to bed every night 100% committed to getting the best possible outcome you can for this family. It's important to you. They're counting on you. This is a mission. It's not just your business. It is your business and all of the things that's attached to it. So here's what I want you to know. You can take a deep breath, because when you have me in your corner, you're going to have the time to go do what it is that you need to do so you can get the best outcome for that family through your lawyering. You are going to be able to sleep a little bit better at night because I'm in your corner with you on this, so you can wake up feeling refreshed and have the energy that you need to go do the things that only you can do on this case. So Sally, the attorney, Bob, the attorney, whoever we're talking about is the attorney, they have all those external situations that are problems, and they're also human beings. And so there is a need within them to make sure that they provide all of the things that they know that they need to provide, and they want to feel confident that they can do that. And that's really what a big part of your job is letting them know they can have the confidence, they can have peace of mind, they can sleep at night, they can go do what it is that they need to do, because you're going to help them get more time back under their books, make more money because they're going to win this case because they'll have a certain level of focus, get more love because they're not going to be a stressed out hot mess trying to work with their go home to their family and be all cranky. And they're going to have more health because they are going to be sleeping better at night and maybe even have time to get in a workout. What does all of that bring? More freedom, as they would define it. And it comes in the result of being able to provide the best possible outcome for their clients.
You wrapped that up in such a nice little package, Jane. I saw the framework falling together as you were describing that.
Yeah, good. It's it's so important. I made up a saying. I'm constantly making up. I've made up words before. I make up phrases because it's like the problem underneath the problem. To me, it's just an easier way to remember things, and I just kind of like everything to be fun. But the important thing to remember is this, and this is another phrase that I made up for my community, my clients. People are not paychecks, so please don't treat them like that. People are not paychecks. Please don't treat them like that. Yes, you are a business owner. You 100% have to make money. If a business isn't profitable, it's a bad business. If a business isn't generating revenue, it's not a business. It's a hobby or an outreach, which is fine if that's what you want. But as a business owner, you have to generate revenue, which means you have to make money, which means you have to sell. And then you need to make sure that business is profitable. So this is what I love about selling. It's imperative that you know how to do it, because that is where the money comes from in your business. And people aren't paychecks, so let's not treat them like that. So when you get into an exploratory call, that's why it's so important that you really understand, who is this person as a person? Are they going to be somebody that you enjoy working with? And then, do they have a problem that you can solve? And are you the best person to solve that problem? If the answer to all three of those questions is yes, then off you go. Take that piece of business. It will probably be a really fantastic experience. So there's a real balance between, you have to go generate revenue for your company, and you have to remember and don't get attached to the outcome when you're in a particular conversation, because people aren't paychecks, so we don't want to treat them that way.
Yes, indeed. And I know for the people who watch this or are listening now, that Jane and my conversation is going to stir up some questions, and you're going to want to go deeper. I did want to make sure that you know that I've got a new book that's out on this topic, Powerful LNC Presentations, How to Get the Case, which is a two-part book. One part deals with using presentations to attorneys in an educational setting to demonstrate your expertise, to lead to part two, which is bringing the case in the door and closing the sale. You can get that book at lnc.tips/creating series. And now, Jane, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you about another one of your abbreviations, the POP. Tell us about that.
Yes. So the POP, POP, is the possibility of the possibility. So it's really kind of in life, but specifically in a sales conversation, you always have what I describe as two bookends. You've got the bookend of the problem and you've got the other bookend of the possibility. So when you're talking to somebody, what you are trying to determine is what are their problems? What is the problem that they have, or the multiple problems? And then what is the problem underneath the problem? The pop, that's the pup. The pop is the possibility of the possibility. What do they want? What do they really want? So let's look at the pop a little bit, just like we dissected the pup. So remember, with the pup, you've got a problem, which is technically a situation because it's external. And the problem underneath the problem is what your client is really wanting to be certain of. Now, the pop, the possibility, same kind of dissection. So the first possibility is always the obvious one. Well, I want to win the case. Okay, makes sense. What is the possibility of the possibility? Well, if you have an attorney who is consistently winning cases because they're prepared, they're relaxed, they have the time and energy they need to provide the counsel that they know they need to provide, and they are winning their cases, what happens as a result of that? They're going to get more business. So they're going to get more cases. What happens as a result of that? They are doing what they believe they were put in the world to do, which is provide legal counsel to people and provide the best possible outcomes out of very unfortunate situations. So as a result, that attorney is going to have a sense of pride in the work that they do. They know that they're making a difference. Pat, I will never forget in the conference last year, watching the presentation of that attorney talk about the family that he represented. That actually changed my life a little bit, just thinking that through. So I wanted to put that in there and mention that, because that's what happens. That attorney was so passionate about the work that he did in incredibly unfortunate circumstances. So the attorneys that you work with, let's go back to, they'll have a sense of pride in what they're doing. They know that they're making a difference. They're providing the best possible outcome in unfortunate circumstances for their clients, for the families, for the loved ones. And as a practical result is they'll have a bigger practice, which means they will be able to generate more revenue, which means they will have a different financial lifestyle. And now they will be able to provide for their family. And it becomes this very interesting ripple effect. So the possibility of the possibility isn't just, well, I want to win my cases. The possibility of the possibility, which a lot of time isn't conscious, is I want to do work in the world that means something. I want to make a difference. I want to significantly affect the lives of my clients in the best possible way. And I want to make sure that my own family or my own loved ones, that they have a nice life because of what I have been able to provide for them. So the possibility of the possibility is, what is it that they really want? Just like the problem underneath the problem is, what is it that they really want to solve? Here's another phrase I came up with. People will pay you for the work that you do, but they're investing in the transformation. So they're going to pay you for reading the medical transcripts and helping them prepare for court. But what they're investing in is their commitment to their clients, their pride in knowing that they're changing people's lives, and their desire to make sure that they provide a great life for their family.
And to take this down the defense tree just for a moment, before we talk about transformation a little bit more, one of my attorney clients managed to antagonize one of the insurance companies that funded the defense firm that paid his salary. And it was this act by this attorney that involved taking an extremely long and expensive deposition that racked up thousands of dollars. That was the last straw for this insurance company. They hired a truck and drove up to the law firm and said, "We want all of the files." And the law firm had no idea that this was happening and ended up terminating this attorney as a result of this action. And it was the last straw for this attorney who had done other things. From the defense perspective, we talked about transforming patients' lives, but they have to keep their food chain well fed and well hydrated. And if they lose an insurance company as a client, then that has a direct impact on their ability to keep their payroll going.
Mm-hmm.
If we put that into the bucket, recognizing there are different motivations, and yet they're both the plaintiff attorney who wants to keep the client happy and avoid being sued for legal malpractice, and the defense attorney who wants to keep the insurance company happy so they can keep their lights on. They're both very focused on what is the outcome and what can the legal nurse consultant do to help the attorney achieve the outcome that they're after.
Yes, 100%. And what a frightening story. So yes, so this is the importance of really understanding what do they want. So if now we're back into a discovery call, a consultation, and you're talking to somebody who's at that firm, Pat, that you just mentioned, you would want to understand what it is that they really, really want. They want to make sure that they're retaining their top attorneys. They want to make sure that they aren't aggravating and upsetting the insurance companies. And so what's the problem underneath the problem? We're going to have a lack of business. We're going to get a bad reputation. We're not going to have jobs. If they own the owners of the firm, the partners of the firm, that's going away. Now we're back to what are they going to do? They're not going to be able to take care of their family. So it's so multi-layered because we're humans. And I know that I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again because this is so important. When you're in a discovery call, you have to find out all the data. You have to find the stats, the objective information. You have to get that, especially in this line of work. Incredibly important. And you also need to go a little bit deeper and find out what else is the problem underneath the problem. So a great example of that, Pat, would be if you had been talking to that company, you could have asked them questions like, where have you seen inappropriate or not substantial enough support from outside sources affect your firm? And they would have said, well, we can tell you this story. So a truck showed up one day. And now you know they've already been through that. So you would be able to assure them, if you decide that you want to work with them, that that's not going to happen on your watch because. And so presenting that to them, that I want you to know that you can have full confidence that you're not going to have a truck show up at your door. I can't promise anything, but as far as I'm concerned, you're not going to have a truck show up at your door because you can be assured and feel confident that you're getting what you need from me as the LNC. And that's because, and then you would explain to them why that is.
I would like for the people who are watching this live, if you would put in the chat what you see as one of the surface problems that attorneys come to you with, and then we can explore what is the problem underneath the problem. As we go on, Jane, as people are putting their comments in the chat, I'd like to ask you about the self-confidence piece. This is particularly a challenge for people at the beginning part of their career who have gone through some training program or some preparation. They love this work. They think they want to do it. And then they get an opportunity with these early calls from prospects, and they're not sure if they can do that. They want to display confidence, but they don't necessarily have that rooted in their soul that says, yes, I can do that. What would you say to that person who is struggling with the confidence piece in that sales conversation?
So the first thing to remember is it's really not about the closing. So I always like to use a dating analogy with sales. When you show up for a first date and you're sitting across from that person, you're not going, oh, I hope they want to get married. Oh, I hope we're going away for them. I hope you're not doing that. And if you are, hey, more power to you. But I would advise against it. So it's the same thing in a sales conversation. When you enter into that conversation, remember you would like to do this, you feel excited about it, but you're not sure. Just like on that first date, seems like an interesting person, butterflies in the stomach, but I'm not sure it's a first date, but I'm not sure it's a conversation. So the first thing you can do to just take down any stress that you're feeling and gain a sense of confidence is to remember you're not going in there to close. You don't know anything about this person. Therefore, you don't know if you want to take them on as a client. Therefore, there's no reason to close because you don't know if you want to take them on as a client, and that's because you don't know this person. So the first thing is just to make sure it's not about getting good at closing. It's about getting good at opening. If you have ever confidently sat in a coffee shop with your best friend and had a conversation and asked questions, you can do this. That's really all it is. It's just be present, ask questions, and like in any conversation with a human, your best friend at the coffee shop, your spouse, whatever, people will generally tell you what the next best question to ask is if you're listening. They don't literally say, and now I'd like you to ask me this. They don't do that. But if you're fully present in a conversation and you're asking questions and they're answering them, you're going to be able to know what is the next best question I would ask here based on the answer that person just gave me. So the first thing is, please don't worry about closing. Stop. The whole coffee's for closers. It's made for a great line and a great movie, but no. So don't do that. The second thing is to remember not everybody gets an offer. So it's just an extension of don't worry about the closing. You don't know this person. You don't know if you'd like to work with them. So therefore, you don't know if they get an offer. The stress from selling happens when you feel like I have to close. I have to make an offer. They have to tell me yes. I have to now I have to be prepared. Here come the objections. It's just kind of a very old school way of thinking about sales. It's enormously stress inducing. So don't worry about the closing. Secondly, remember, not everybody gets an offer. The third thing to give you confidence in a sales conversation, I'm pausing because it's a huge topic. I train on this all the time, and it takes us weeks to really be able to get through this. But the third thing is you do need to be able to present an offer in a way that your prospective client can hear it. It has to be in their language. If you start talking about what you can do and the process of how it's done, they're going to check out. They don't have the expertise that you do. They don't have the experience that you do. So what makes her a confident person, a business owner in a sales conversation? Not worrying about the close, knowing that not everybody gets an offer. And if it is time to talk about an offer and working together, you're able to deliver your offer and articulate it in a way that's really going to land on your client in their language. And how do you do that? Now we're back to the transformation. Remember,
Yes.
we'll pay you for the work that you do, but they're investing in the transformation.
We have some comments in the chat, Jane, in response to my question about what do attorneys identify as the surface problem. And one of them is lack of time. Faith has shared that one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So surface problem is lack of time. What happens with the attorney when they have a lack of time? We don't know. This is why having conversations are really key. So let me give you a couple examples. You speak to attorney number one, and they are completely pressed for time and stressed out because they have multiple cases that they're trying to simultaneously take care of. You talk to attorney number two, and they are pressed for time because they have a vacation booked. They haven't had one in 4 years. It's coming up, and the time is starting to compress on them, and they're terrified that they're not actually going to be able to take that vacation that their entire family has been looking forward to for over a year, and everything's non-refundable. Third option might be for an attorney who's feeling stressed for time is maybe they know that they need a certain amount of time to be able to process everything the way that they like to process, and they don't feel that they have ample time to be able to do that in addition to all of the other things that they have to do. So this is why conversations are so key, and they're also really fun. Is we don't know there's a human being on the other side. 100% of any business owner, attorneys, most people, I would say, maybe 99.9% of people, we all feel a little pressed for time. We live in a busy world with way too many things that ping and bing and bong and chong and all that stuff. Pat and I were talking about that a little bit this morning. So we're all feeling pressed for time. What does it mean specifically to the person that you are talking to right there in that moment? That's what you need to find out. That is the problem underneath the problem for that person. And it's a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah, and another interpretation could be the attorney is looking at a deadline to provide a report from an expert witness. And if the attorney doesn't get the right person in place who says what the attorney needs them to say, then that impacts the case.
Right. It impacts the case. And we're back. It always just keeps moving in the same circle, which is one of the things I've also loved about selling is you kind of learn it once and it's just you're in the same loop. So in that instance, we're back in. I'm not going to be able to provide the counsel that I know that I need to provide. The firm I work for is going to get upset. Now I feel like my job might be in jeopardy.
Mhm.
What's the problem underneath the problem? What is that? What is the attorney that you're talking to really struggling with? If it's not reading the
And
report.
and both Connie and Faith also came up with something very similar, not understanding the medical terms or understanding a case with the degree with which a medical person would understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not an attorney, nor am I an LNC, but you know what I felt right there is incompetence. If I'm the attorney on this case and it's my job to be able to just decipher and interpret and understand these medical documents, and I can't, that makes sense. I mean, I'm not an LNC. I'm an attorney, right? But there's some level there's some level that will feel like, well, now I just feel incompetent. Well, what happens when you feel incompetent? You start losing your confidence. What happens when you start losing your confidence? Now we're back to not being able to provide the counsel that I know is adequate that my client needs.
Mm-hmm. It's all in a little circle, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
Um, let's move on. And I think that I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about positioning, making sure that when we're having that conversation, in the back of our minds, that little voice of lack of confidence might say, I'll bet this attorney is just calling a bunch of people to find out what they charge and is using that criteria to determine whether or not they're going to select me. Now, that's one problem, right? The person who's evaluating us purely on our hourly rate.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? I think before we go on, maybe we should address that the tire kicker term, which I've discovered, Jane, not everyone knows. So
Okay.
let's first talk about the tire kicker and what that implies about the attorney who's contacting us.
Yes. So tire kickers are, so if you think about a car lot and somebody goes on and the person on the car lot who's the salesperson comes up, how can I help you? What are you looking for? And the prospective client really has no interest in buying a car. They're just out for whatever reasons they are. And it's okay. I love the judgment free zone. But they're kicking the tires. What kind of tires are on the car? How fast does the car go? What does the car do? Does it come in blue? Does it come in red? They have zero intention of buying a car and may not for the next 3 years. They just like to go look at cars. So that's the term tire kicker. It happens in every industry. You have a true prospective client that is going to need to hire somebody. And they're tire kicking because they're making their decision 100% based on what is this going to cost me. We're back in a loop because if you remember earlier, who is this person as a person? Is this a client that you would want to take on? Are you going to get the phone call and go, great? Or are you going to get the phone call and go, here we go? So when you know how to ask questions in the structure of the sales conversation, you're going to be able to determine, is this somebody who wants to make an investment based on quality so that they get the result that they are looking for? Are they looking for a partner? That's a client that you want to take. Are they tire kicking and just trying to go for the bargain basement bins and that's who they want to hire? That is not a client that you want to take. Those are very problematic clients. And they tend to be the highest maintenance too. High maintenance and not willing to invest. It seems to go hand in hand for some bizarre reason. So you don't want those clients. Your confidence, going back to the confidence, is when you are really confident about the questions that you're asking, the types of questions that you're asking. Remember, you're on a first date. You're not trying to close them. Not everybody gets an offer. You have all the power in that conversation. It really is your decision. So the confidence comes from knowing I'm going to get on this I'm going to get on this call. I'm going to have a conversation and I'm going to determine if this is a client that I want to take. And the only thing that I need to know how to do is ask really good questions. I shouldn't say the only, the most important thing I need to know how to do is ask really good questions and ask them so they're going deep enough to get to the problem underneath the problem. And I have one tip on how to handle people who just, well, how much is it? Right away. They just jump in. Yeah, but how much does it cost? You say to them, I don't know, which is the truth. I don't know. I really don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your case. I don't know what it is that you need. And I don't even know if I can help you. I don't know what your problems are. I don't know if I have solutions, and I don't know that I'm the best person to solve the problems that you may or may not have. So how much does it cost? I'm not really going to know until we have a conversation. If you're willing to have a conversation with me, then at the end of the conversation, if it makes sense, I can tell you how much it would cost, but that's only if we decide to work together. What do you say to that? That usually calms everybody down. In most instances, the reason why they're asking about the money right away is they're already stressed, and it's an easy out. I'll just kick the finance thing out and move on to the next one. So you've got confidence there. Take your stance. I don't know. I don't know how much it's going to cost. It's 100% true. You don't know. If they really push on you, then you can just give them a huge range, which is also true. Well, it's anywhere from $500 an hour to 50 grand. I don't know. I don't know what you need.
2 points that you just made, Jane, that particularly resonate with me and with our listeners. It is a big revelation. It was for me, at least, in the beginning when I wanted any case that would come through my door. And when I got to the point that I was in a sales interview with a man who was clearly abrasive and obnoxious, and I realized that as I walked out of his office with a tension headache, this is not a person that I want in my life. But I doubted whether I could say no to him. He was a prominent plaintiff attorney. He had lots of work. And I called some friends who knew him, who helped me understand that I had a choice. I didn't have to accept every person who contacted me. That was a turning point for me. And I reached that not in the first year of business, but after several years transpired. And then I met this obnoxious guy. So you are in a position of being able to say no and not to be so needy and hungry that you'll ignore the red flags that we talked about earlier. And then the second piece that you made, that the point that you made that is so important, is that attorneys will say to legal nurse consultants, well, I've got, it's a 1-week hospitalization and some follow-up records. How long will that take for you to go through? And I would say, well, my crystal ball is not working right now. Yeah, like a 1-hour hospital, a 1-week hospital admission. I don't know. And they would press, and that's a great response of, I need to know more about it. What is it that you're looking for? What services do you need? What are the issues? Asking those questions that you talked about earlier are critical. Before we wrap this program up, I know that there was some comments in the chat, and you may have questions you want to ask Jane. I want to be sure to let you know now is the time to put those comments in so that we can address them. And Jane, I know that you have something that would be particularly useful for people to deal with some of these stressors that we've been talking about. Can you tell us a little bit about this banner, this address that I just put on the chat, which is bit.ly/7stressors?
Yes, this is the 7 sales stressors, and how when you are able to move through those and navigate around them, then you unlock more business, you unlock better clients, higher quality clients, more income, more revenue generated, everything. So 7 stressors. They really are, over my 30 years of experience of hiring and training and managing sales teams when I was in corporate, and then with my own business for 13 years, these are the top 7 things that they're the gremlins in the mind. They get in the way of you showing up and doing the very great and important work that you are meant to do. So if you grab a copy of this, it'll walk you through every single one of those stressors individually, and it will also provide you a way to start moving through them, so you're not stressed about them anymore.
All right. I'm for anything that takes stress out of my life. I like the sound of that one.
Yeah, it's fun. I was rereading it last night, and I thought, oh yeah, because here's the other thing. I can leave everybody with this. It doesn't matter how long you've been in a sales seat. You're going to feel all the things, and you're going to experience all the things. I talk to clients that I call it the sweaty palms. Sometimes it's sweaty palms because I'm thinking, I really want to work with this person, and I'm very excited. And I have to take a deep breath and remember, I think I do, but I don't really know. I've had sweaty palm conversations because, like you said, Pat, just red flags everywhere. I just want to get off the phone, and I'm trying to be graceful and diplomatic about it. So it runs the gamut. You're as seasoned as you may become and as confident as you may get. You are also a human being talking to another human being, and we are just wired to have feelings about that. So it will happen. So yeah, definitely grab that. It was a fun read for me again last night, and just a good reminder. Oh, yes, I've experienced that stressor recently. What was my advice here? Let me check it out.
Let me go back to the expert who wrote the document.
I have to hire myself all the time. It's kind of funny.
And I have something also for you in dealing with some of the objections or hesitations that you might encounter as a legal nurse consultant. You can go to lnc.tips/47 ways to get the case in the door. And that deals specifically with the words that you hear, the feelings that you get when you're having that preliminary conversation with the attorney. We can anticipate what some of their questions might be, and you'll learn some of the strategies that are particularly useful for helping with that sales conversation. I also want to make sure that you know about the conference that I mentioned at the beginning of our call, which takes place October 26, 27, 28, 2023. This is our next online virtual conference where you'll hear lots of speakers participate in breakout sessions and get the hands-on training and the inspiration that you need as a legal nurse consultant. And that is at lnc.tips/October 2023 virtual. I'm looking for questions. The links that we've been talking about are in the chat, and Justine asked about putting those links in the chat. I know that earlier there was a question from somebody who said, yes, Denisha, I came across your question. Let me look at that. I'm new as an LNC. I've been having much bad luck obtaining attorney clients. Some comments that she's heard, price is too expensive. During a call, I was able to uncover the attorney had bad experiences working with legal nurse consultants. An attorney stating, I do the records myself and my staff. Do you want to comment on Denisha's question or comment?
I would love to, and I'm thinking, okay, let me clear my calendar here for a couple hours because we got some sales training to do. Okay, so for the quick answer for today, the common theme: the prices are too expensive. I've had bad experiences working with LNCs, and I do the records and review of my staff does. The common theme there is they, as far as we can tell right now, they are unwilling to consider how their job might be easier, might be improved because of hiring an expert on the outside. So the common theme is these people don't really seem to understand the value of hiring an LNC. Now, we don't know why until we start digging around in there. One of them clearly had a bad experience with an LNC before. So that would be the main focus of that conversation. If I were in your shoes, Denisha, is find out what happened there. And remember, the best advice I can give you in this moment is remember there's a sense of trepidation for every person that you talk to, for every attorney that you talk to. They've got their own stories about what's going on. This is going to cost too much money. It's not going to deliver the results that I need. I'm going to get frustrated. I've had bad luck with this before. They are bringing their own baggage into the call. So to some extent, you are kind of fighting an uphill battle because they're poised to not want to say yes to you. So keep in mind, it's a conversation where you're asking questions, trying to determine what is it that they really want. The next point that I can give you quickly in this time frame is remember to lean back because people aren't paychecks and provision is forthcoming. That's the other thing I always turn my clients on. People aren't paychecks, so we don't treat them that way. And that also means, Pat, to your story, sometimes you say no, but you don't worry about it because provision is forthcoming. So I want everybody to write that down. Provision is forthcoming. It's a huge mindset you have to have. Otherwise, you're going to be tempted to take on every client, including these people that are telling you it's too expensive. You're going to start getting into a debate with them, which is a huge waste of time. So point number one, remember to ask really good questions. Point number two, lean back. You're not attached to the outcome. Provision is forthcoming. And then point number three, it's okay. So I've got a AAA method that I talk about really quickly because I know we're running out of time. But what I mean by it's okay is when somebody says you're too expensive, I want you to AAA them. I made this up too. It's not the car company. I know that. They're great. AAA in our world, my world, is you're going to acknowledge what they said, you're going to affirm it, and then you're going to ask a question. So when somebody says to you, Denisha, I mean, sure, if I could, but this is just too expensive. You go, I understand that. That's your acknowledgement. And then you affirm, this isn't a couple few $100. This is going to be a significant investment into the work that you do so that you can get the outcomes that you want. And then you're going to ask, what is it that you're ultimately looking for when it comes to representing your client? What's important to you? It creates a diffusion because the temptation for most people until you're trained in this is to lean in and go, well, no, it's not. What are you, crazy? You need me. You're out of your mind if you don't. I mean, you may not say it like that, although I have heard some people say it like that. That's what you're feeling, which isn't going to get anybody anywhere. So you acknowledge that you have heard what they said. You affirm it. I mean, provided you really believe it. But I usually do believe every objection that somebody says. It's too expensive. I understand. It's not a small investment. I don't have the time. I understand. It's going to take a few hours a week. I don't know that I can trust you. I understand. You don't really know me. So you affirm and you acknowledge, and then you ask a question. You want to get them thinking about what it is that they want so that they're able to lift up out of their story and their preconceived ideas of what they already believe. A huge part of your job when you're talking to people to get attorney clients is it really is a lot of psychology. Have compassion. They're scared, they're frustrated, they're stressed, they've wasted money before, it didn't turn out like they thought it would. And they're going into their lizard brain in a lot of scarcity. And unfortunately, you're the one talking to them, so they're just kind of taking it out on you. So understand what it is they really want. Do that by asking questions. Lean back. Provision is forthcoming. You don't need to take this person on as a client. You don't know that you want to. And have some compassion for them. They're dealing with their own things. And you as nurses are specifically skilled and gifted to be able to do that. So lead with that. Always lead with your strength. Lead with that. So for everybody who can hear me right now, I want you to lead with that. I am compassionate. I am able to take authority and leadership in any situation very quickly. And I'm able to make people feel comfortable and know that it is going to be okay. That's what I want you all to lead with, and then do those other things.
That is a wonderful wrap up, Jane. Jane Garee, a skilled super salesperson and trainer, has taught me a lot in my interactions with her, and I so value what Jane has to offer to you. I'm seeing lots of positive comments in the chat, Jane. People are loving what you're saying. You've given us a level of hope and confidence and reassurance that this doesn't have to be icky, tire-kicking, sales, sleazy conversations, but a conversation between somebody who's interested in what we have to say, is making a decision about whether that attorney wants to work with us. And always remember, as nurses, we have the communication skills to keep this as a conversation, to withdraw some of the tension, emotion, the desire, I really want this job, and connect with that person as another person with a problem that you can help them solve. While you're making a decision, is this a person I want to work with? You have that power to make that decision, and don't have to work with people who are not going to treat you well. You don't have to do it. That's off the table. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're so welcome. It was fun, and it was an honor. I always love hanging out with you, Pat.
Thank you. And for everybody who has watched this, been part of our live meeting or will watch us in the future, thank you for investing your time. Remember, you're the expert. You're the person who can help the attorney with the case, and that perspective helps you in your business growth and to help you avoid some challenging client situations. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.